welcome back to the Freely Roaming Podcast. My name is Dan.
My name's Marlene.
So we have another interview podcast episode for you guys today. We're really excited to be speaking with, I guess we already spoke to them. This is actually from a couple of months ago when we're still in Costa Rica. We're now in Colombia. We've been waiting for everything from the shipping process to kind of finalize. We've had our van here for a couple of weeks now, but we were missing our battery, which we had to ship separately. So that whole process will be in an upcoming episode. But this one is with our friends Linhbergh and Karissa of GonDirtin. They are friends of ours that we met, I want to say 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago exactly. As a matter of fact,
At Expo.
As a matter of fact, 2022 Overland Expo West is when we first met them. We were both on display at the Nomad booth, and today is actually the second day of Expo West 2024, and they're there working with Expedition Overland. So they created a creator series called GonCooking, and there's 5 episodes. We're actually in the episode that just released 3 days ago. Really excited. It was really great. We got a little preview. They sent us a little preview, so we got to see it like the day before it was released. We're really happy with it. And I thought this was perfect because we were scheduling their podcast with us, which we did months ago now, to release around the same time. That's total coincidence. It wasn't because we waited, pushed it off to release it or anything.
It's meant to be.
I literally just finished editing it this morning, and we had different interviews scheduled. We had a great conversation with them, like with these people that we've known and are friends with. When we have podcast episodes, we tend to go pretty long.
Yeah, it's nice to see familiar faces and voices, and as international travelers, we don't get to hang out that much, so it was like fun to catch up too.
Yeah, for us, right? Because we've been traveling through Central and South America or Latin America for the last 2 years. And when we get to talk to somebody who are friends of ours, which doesn't happen that often, these days, it seems to happen on podcast recordings more than anything else. In fact, we just did 2 more episodes, 2 more interviews that'll be released in June and in July. And we'll tell you guys more about those later. We talked to them about how they got into overlanding. We talked to them about how they became photographers. They're both amazing photographers. We talked to them about their love for cooking, and combining all 3, was like a stroke of genius in creating a show called GonCooking. If you haven't seen it, it is live on the Mobile One YouTube channel. There's 5 episodes, and it's also on the XOverland Network, which is like a subscription-based streaming network that has a bunch of different stuff that Expedition Overland has made, and also they have a bunch of different creators helping them create new content as well. And I think there's supposed to be a trial, like a 2-month trial, but some people are only seeing like a 3-day trial or something like that.
It's a 2-month trial if you click on a special link that they have for promotion on Expo right now.
So we'll try to find that link and put it down in the description for you guys. So without further ado, we'll go into our hour and a half, I think it was about an hour and a half interview, talking to them about everything related to camping, photography, and cooking. Hope you guys enjoy. So today we have Linhbergh and Karissa on the podcast with us. You guys want to introduce yourselves really quickly, or not really quickly, do it as long as you want. Let us know about
I'm Linhbergh.
you.
I'm Karissa.
And we're GonDirtin, and we like to camp sometimes.
Camping, cooking, traveling, exploring.
Yeah.
We love it all.
Yeah.
So, just so for people who don't know, we've known each other for what? A couple of years now? 22 in Overland Expo. And let's start with kind of like your guys' background. Like, where did you guys grow up? And, what was it like where you were growing up? And then we can kind of lead up to present day as the conversation goes along.
Well, go ahead.
You guys pick who starts. It's up to you.
Okay. I grew up in South Texas, so really crazy climate, hot, cold, just depending on the weather. And I don't know, what else do I say?
You grew up in a small town in Texas. That's a big part of.
Yeah, small town Texas. I grew up in the country, but kind of close to town. And
Like
worked at my family's.
how far was the biggest town from where you grew up, and how big?
I mean,
what town was it?
Houston's like 2 hours if you're talking like big town. The place
Okay.
that I'm from is called Victoria. And gosh, back then it was probably like maybe 30, 40,000 people. There's much more now, but
Houston.
yeah, I
So
grew
it's
up
like towards the Gulf from Houston, or which direction?
yeah. So between on a map, if you're looking at like Corpus Christi and Houston, it's literally smack dab in the
Oh,
middle.
cool. Okay.
Yeah, pretty close to the coast, so you really get that like Gulf air coming through, a lot of humidity. Yeah.
So much humidity.
Grew
So
up really
much.
into cars, worked at my family's car audio shop for like 10 years and installed car audio, grew up around my grandparents' garden center. I mean, just so, yeah, I was in plants a lot, I was in cars a lot.
Did you used
then
to
I moved out
have
west.
a draw in your accent, or have you gotten rid of it? Or did you never catch it?
I would say I never had like a heavy accent, but I definitely like, I have a southern twang. It really comes out when I go home for the holidays.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's a switch. Yeah. Like when she's not in Texas, it's fine. Certain
Yeah.
words have the twang, but when she
Yeah.
goes home, it comes out.
After a couple
Yeah.
of beers, a couple of Lone Stars, maybe a rack of ribs, or
Yeah,
comes right back.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you grew up
So,
around
yeah.
cars, and we'll get into that a little bit because we know you guys, so we know that cars have been a big part of your lives.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
does that have to do? Do you think being around like a car audio shop has some influence on that, or is that just kind of
definitely.
coincidental that you got into it later?
I would say definitely. I was around car shows and like sound offs for like people would have like the DB drive and you would like have people come up with their giant subwoofers in their cars and it'd be like a big thing, like who has the loudest system. And I mean, I just grew up around that since I was like a little girl.
I recently went to one of these with her family. I've never been to one in my life. Like you see a bunch of dudes holding doors with carpets to keep the sound in.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Isn't the whole point to let the sound out? Why are they keeping it in?
They're like they put like judging microphones inside the car, and it depends on how loud
I
it is
see.
inside the car. So you have to keep everything.
So they
in.
want the reverberation to get their score. So this is a contest.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
yeah, DB
Wow.
contest.
It's crazy. I've never seen anything in my life. Yeah, and like
wild.
all the windows are like taped, all the seams are taped, all the doors are taped, everything's taped, just to keep the
And-
sound in.
Wow.
And your parents still have this car audio shop.
Yeah, they do. Gosh.
Do they like?
they've
Are
had
they
it
sponsors for these events, or how? What's their involvement?
Yeah, sometimes they would host it, and DB Drive is like I guess a type of like company, kind of like any other competition thing that kind of goes around the United States, and they would host at our shop, or we'd go to other people's events and just have a blast. Yeah, so people would have like 615s in a van, and it would be insane.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
we've been camping with you guys, and that's not what your rigs have. Is
No.
this
No,
setup?
totally. It's
Is that
really
just-
funny.
Are your parents disappointed in
Yeah,
you?
is that just like a revolt from your childhood?
So it was really interesting because when we built out our current rig at her family's audio shop.
Okay.
And the whole time, her dad was like, "Are you sure you don't want speakers on your back doors?"
Yeah, he's like, you want to roll up to camp and just like play your music? I was like, Dad, we're really quiet. Like we barely even listen to music on our drives. I'm like total 180 from like where I came from. I came from
man.
like an RX-7 with subs that I would like blast music as loud as possible. To
Oh,
then
so
like
you
now
did
being-
do it when you were a kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say I'm not an audiophile, but I really love good quality audio. I kind of nerd out over it. I even have like a home audio system that I nerd out about. But yeah, I don't go as ham on like cranking the music though when we go camping. But my dad was like really just like making sure we didn't make a mistake by not putting speakers in the back
Yeah,
doors.
I mean, probably walking away, shaking his head, feeling the disappointment in his heart
A little bit for
a
sure.
little bit.
We got a sub
Still
in there
love
though,
you.
and they were really stoked that we wanted to do that.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
We do have a sub, and it does sound really good up front when you're driving, when we are listening
wow.
to music.
Which is great because the
Yeah.
Land Cruiser's loud. Like it's a diesel and it's clacky. So like if you want to drown it out a little bit,
Yeah.
The sub
Yeah,
and the speakers
right.
really help.
What you can't hear doesn't exist. So, that's not a drive shaft dragging on the ground. That's my speaker.
Yeah.
That's actually funny because when we first met you guys, you did have some transmission issues with the Land Cruiser, didn't you?
We did. Yeah. We when we met, actually, our clutch went out. Or was
That was the
going
clutch,
out.
right? It was the
That was the
clutch.
clutch. Yeah.
I remember that. We had to get trailered to Expo once we were like getting pretty close to Flagstaff.
Yeah.
Yeah, the clutch was like,
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah, and then so after Expo, which is very interesting, we drove so it was like it was on the way out clutch where you could still use your clutch, but if it got too hot, you couldn't use your clutch.
Okay,
Right?
so you had to go like
and so
10
we had
miles
to
at
we
a
had to
time.
drive to Prescott from Flagstaff, and then luckily Prescott is all downhill. Barely used the car on the way to Prescott.
So that was Karissa's childhood. How about you, Linhbergh? What was it like for you?
I grew up in the second largest Vietnamese community in the United States.
What's
San
the
Jose,
first?
California. Orange County.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Westminster
Right.
area.
I think now though the second largest is Houston. San Jose has been bumped out.
Oh, really?
I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe so. But I grew up in San Jose. It's a big city, but it's a quiet city. Weirdly,
From a
lot
Vietnamese
of tech.
family.
yeah, from a Vietnamese family. It wasn't anything too exciting, I would say, about San Jose. I would say living in small town Texas is weirdly more exciting than big city tech town for some reason. But grass is always
I
greener.
mean, it's true. I feel like everybody thinks that their upbringing is not anything exciting, but that's why we gotta dig a little deeper. I bet there's some, I mean, I don't know if this is something you feel comfortable talking about, but you were a pioneer in the skinny jeans, is what I remember.
Oh yes, I was. I guess I can talk about that. But that was after I left. My parents,
Really?
right?
Okay.
Yeah, you don't
But,
want
I
to
mean,
get like
it came
just
from
scolding.
somewhere, right? Like the seeds must have been planted.
So I think I would say this is early 2000s. I was already moved out, and skinny jeans were now becoming cool, right?
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to be cool as someone in your early 20s, you had to have skinny jeans. At the time, nobody made skinny jeans for men, so I went to the thrift store and I bought women's skinny jeans, and that was like commonplace around that time too. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I knew tons of guys
Yeah,
that
yeah.
wore women's
There wasn't
jeans.
much room for things, but you make it work.
Yeah, please elaborate. What things are we talking about here? This is we don't want to get banned. I guess.
Keys,
No.
wallet.
Certain
Clean
platforms.
rating right now.
Yeah.
That was a moment in time, though. I remember all the skater dudes in Texas wearing like girls' jeans.
Yeah, it was. It
It was
definitely
wild.
yeah.
They loved it because they're like, doesn't get in the way when I'm trying to do my kick flips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so San Jose itself was pretty. I would say pretty uneventful, but like what?
I feel like San Jose was great for you though, because your parents really loved the outdoors. I look back at your childhood photos, and you guys were always camping. Your dad had like that really sick orange van or something.
Oh
and,
yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's like what helped you dabble into nature a lot.
Yeah, so my
All right.
my family's
so
really
things
religious.
are coming back to Linhbergh. Things are starting to come
My
to
family
the
was
surface.
quite religious, and so my dad had this mission that we had to go outdoors up to the mountains to be closer to God.
Huh.
And so we went
Okay.
camping all the time. So and then being in San Jose, you're in a valley, right? The Silicon Valley, and you're surrounded by mountains. So we would go to the mountains all the time to do
Yeah.
that. And I guess I grew a love for an appreciation for the outdoors because of that. Of course, that's like hindsight, right? At the time, you're like, "Oh, I'm a teenager. I don't want to do anything with religion
Yeah.
or
I don't want to be
parents
singing
or
this
anything
orange
like that."
van. Tell me more about
The
this
orange-
orange van. It sounds pretty sick.
This orange van. Okay, so the best way to describe this orange van is now if you go down a logging road in Oregon, this is the type of orange van you'd see, right? On the side camping.
Oh,
for
you
like
mean this
14
is like
days.
a Department of Transportation surplus or retired van? Is that why it's orange?
It's a Dodge. It was a Dodge van with a V8 that had like 120 horsepower,
It's very 70s vibe.
and then it had a camper inside, like fridge, propane fridge with a pull-out.
Was there a lot of velvet and heart-shaped windows?
No, there's carpet everywhere.
Carpet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it, like for us, if we saw this van when we're on the road, we would go like, I don't know if we want to get close to it. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Baby Linhbergh is in there getting dragged to the mountains. It's like
It took us a lot of
transport it in
places.
time.
Yeah. It took us a lot of places. If we climbed up mountains, we had to turn off the AC, that kind of thing. And
Yeah, that was pretty normal though. Like for us, we had cars in the 90s that certainly the AC only worked when it was cold outside, which is not when you want ACs to work.
No.
You
Right,
want
right,
exactly.
right.
So when you go to Vegas in the summer, the AC wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So that's a problem.
Yeah.
So how did you guys end up? I mean, you guys are in Southern California now, both of you, but you guys met in SoCal, right? Or did you
We
guys
met
meet
actually
before?
in Detroit on a
wow.
job. Yeah,
Okay,
because
let's talk about that.
We're
How
both
did you guys
automotive.
meet?
We're both automotive photographers, and a friend of ours, a very close mutual friend of ours, we didn't know each other at the time, but we both assisted him with lighting on a Dodge job in Detroit. And I was actually supposed to walk stage for college.
Like to graduate.
Yeah, I was graduating, and my friend was like, "Hey, I have a job," and I was like, "Man, like this is more important than walking stage." So I was
I
like,
thought you meant
"Fly to
like
Detroit."
walking stage at a auto show as a booth babe or something.
Oh gosh, no. I was no car model for sure. I mean, I admire the car models for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a gearhead. But yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna walk stage. My whole family had like flights to come see me graduate, and then I was like, I'm taking this job, and my mom was like, do it. And then Linhbergh and I met and really hit it off, and we were good friends for a while, and then eventually, like,
You
I
guys
was
were
in
working
NorCal.
for the same photographer,
Yeah,
coincidentally.
Yeah.
very
Because
cool.
we both do automotive work, and sometimes depending on the job, you would ask different people to come in to help you out and assist. So it was just one of those like, hey, it's a photographer friend, and do you want to come? I'm like, yeah, of course.
It's always nice to have friends on set, but also like your friends light already for their stuff, so they know exactly what you need. So it makes the whole shoot go very quickly and smoothly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was great.
I mean, it's kind of like the
Remember
film
the
industry.
character.
It's a kind of a natural progression, for like a grip to become a second assistant AD or and then eventually become a cinematographer themselves because they're immersed in that environment. So how did you guys get into photography and then specifically automotive photography?
I mean, I feel like your story's cooler.
So
Well, we know yours, Karissa. It's from one of these bumping
Yeah.
speaker shows.
So,
Just kidding.
I would
Linhbergh
say
first, and then we'll hear from yours.
I moved out of my parents' house in the early 2000s, like I think 03 or something like that, and I moved to Southern California, right? And at the time I was not into cars. In high school, I actually mentally made fun of the people that were into cars because like, why would you spend money on a car and then when you could spend your money on other things, right? That's like I was being a mental mean person, but never said it out loud, right?
It was
Sweet.
jealousy.
And then so I moved to Southern California.
Why did
and
you do that
I
in
was,
the first place? Why not stay in the Bay Area?
I
just
wanted
trying to get
to
out?
not be under the wing anymore of my parents. I
Okay.
knew if I stayed, I wouldn't. I didn't have any ambitions. I didn't have any plans. I didn't have a career thought. I was very close to being a college dropout at the time. And I eventually did when I moved down. And I just knew that there was a holdback of safety net that I had with my parents, and because of that, I knew I couldn't be who I maybe could become if the safety net was no longer there or was there, right? So I moved out, and then I started work. I worked at this company, and I was a graphic designer, and I was commuting 45 minutes to an hour one way every single day. So 2 hours in the car every single day, right? And it got to the point where like
an illustrator, right?
I was an illustrator, yeah. Graphic designer, illustrator. I played multiple roles within that company, and being in the car for 2 hours a day, you would start to realize like, okay, maybe I should get a car that I enjoy being in and driving.
Or like maybe I shouldn't have moved to Southern California because that's what everybody has to do to go to work.
Right. And so I was like, okay, what could I get that's fun and I could afford as a 19-year-old, right? Mm-hmm. And there wasn't much options for that, and so I eventually ended up getting a Mazda Miata for about $1,200, right?
Wow. Wait, is that the one you still have?
No.
Okay.
No. I'll get to the story of what happened to that one pretty soon.
Okay.
So I got this Mazda Miata, and I was like, okay, this is really sweet. And eventually, like anyone else, you start to fall in love with your car, and you want to do things to your car, right? So the people I made fun of, I was now that person, right? I spent money on suspension, I spent money on tires
jealousy
and wheels. And,
in retrospect.
Right. And then as my car mentally, to me, started to look cooler, I started to want to take pictures of it, right? And started off with a point and shoot. And then I was like, okay, this is pretty sweet. And I was maxing out the point and shoot. There was like slow shutter mode on the point and shoot, and I had these like really cool like light trail shots and stuff like that. Like maxed out this point and shoot. Finally upgraded to something a little bit bigger, maxed that thing out super quick, and then
where were you sharing these photos? Were you sharing them with people?
No, I think MySpace was a thing then, and I don't think photo sharing on MySpace was a thing yet.
Not really. It's mostly about customizing your homepage, I think.
Yeah, and top 8.
Yeah. Did
and
you
the top 8, the top 8, right?
I didn't have a DeviantArt.
have DeviantArt?
So a lot of these like point and shoot photos just kind of like sat on my computer, and I'm like, oh, I took that. It's pretty cool, and that didn't really go anywhere. But eventually, I upgraded within point and shoot to a year later. I got my first paying job, at an import car magazine.
And how did you get that job? How did you land that job? Were you using those photos as like a portfolio?
Eventually, I started posting on forums.
Okay.
Right, so I got like I'd never posted a point and shoot photos, but when I got like a bigger camera, like a crop sensor Nikon, it was like a Nikon. Just like I forgot which one it was, a starter kit one.
Oh, so you were on Nikon? Was that?
I was on
platform?
Nikon for a long time, yeah. And so I shot Nikon, and then with those Nikon photos, I started posting on car forums, especially like Mazda Miata forums. I was taking pictures of other Miatas at the time and things like that. I guess the right eyes got onto it, and then an editor emailed me and like, hey, would you like to shoot this thing, and we'll pay you, right? So that became a thing.
What did that feel like to get a first gig getting paid to do this?
Okay, so this is a mental thing that I struggle with to this day, and it's not celebrating little wins, right? And so when I got that first job, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, but this is probably just going to be a one and done thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I did the job, and it was great, and things like that. And
you didn't think it was going to lead anywhere?
I didn't think it was going to lead anywhere. I didn't think, in my mind, like, there's always this, like, Asian mom neg. It's like, you need to go back to school and get a real job and don't do this bullshit stuff. Right? But the weird thing is, for a year from getting that first job, I quit my job and then went full-time with automotive photography within that year. Which is crazy to think.
What made you comfortable enough to do that? I mean, from that job, did it start to kind of snowball a little bit?
Yeah, so it started to snowball, and eventually I got eyes on to this really big car blog at the time called speedhunters.com. And they are the best way to say it, they are a marketing wing for Electronic Arts. And the job of the website is to promote car culture, but also promote the Need for Speed games, right? So that's how they were able to pay people their paychecks, right? And I eventually blogged for this website for free for a little bit. And the editor-in-chief finally said, like, hey, do you want a full-time job, right? And I was like, yeah, I do want a full-time job. And so, back to the first Mazda Miata, I sold that Miata to buy a Canon 5D Mark II.
Wow.
Do you regret it?
Not one single thing. Because, one, I didn't need a car because I didn't know this going into this, but I didn't need a car for a long time after that because I was traveling after I accepted a job and after I officially started a job. I was traveling 320 days a year.
Okay.
And so I didn't need a car anymore.
Yeah.
All over the world.
All over the world, yeah. Just covering car culture, covering racing, and all this other stuff. So it's weird snowball effect. Yeah. So cars have become a huge part.
This was what? This is the teens, the 2010s, or the early
20s.
Yeah.
Aughts.
2010s. 10 to 15, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay.
9 to 15. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think car culture is as big then as it is now, or is it bigger, or do you think there was some kind of like peak at some point? Like it seems like during that time with video games and then like the Fast and Furious franchise and all that stuff was like really blowing it up. Do you think it's always been that way, or do you think it was and then finally became more mainstream from those empires?
I think I don't want to sound old, but like in the sense that like, oh, back in the day it was better. But I think when I was in it, that was kind of the biggest
peak.
it's ever been. It
That
was
peak
peak
car
yeah.
culture.
We would go to these car meets here in LA, and there would be 3,000 cars that show up.
Yeah.
On like, right? And I don't think that happens anymore.
I mean, there's those
meets
like,
do happen.
what is it called? Cars and Coffee or something? Are people still doing
Yeah, so that's
that?
a whole different breed of car people. Basically,
Okay.
Cars and Coffee, people are going to hate me for saying this, but Cars and Coffee is for millennials that made it and have made money and got the cars they've wanted to get, and now they want to show it off, right?
They're not
Right.
They're
Whereas-
not real car nuts. Car nuts are the people
mean,
that
they
will
are.
do anything. But I mean, they're not people that like struggle to get every little part and like fix up their
Right.
car.
But those meets
What-
the meets back in the day were. Right.
Yeah, right,
Younger-
right. You
younger
did it
kids still do that
regardless
for
how
mods.
much money you had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But kids still do it these days, and we've been
Yeah.
to a couple meets lately, like in the past couple years, and it's still very vibrant. It's just not as big.
I think maybe
but it's
there's
nice-
just it's so easy to get distracted with different things on the internet nowadays. So
Yeah.
it's kind of everything just gets diluted, just like
Mm-hmm.
how like television has been, movies, right? There's so many like TV shows
Mm-hmm.
from all these different streaming things, cable, regular TV networks. Like, how do you even know what to watch and what to like?
Right. Yeah.
Definitely. It's like sensory overload on like what you can truly
Yeah.
be into and
Mm-hmm.
hobbies to have. I will say car culture for sure. It's still massive.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
massive. I
Maybe
don't
bigger
know,
than
I
ever,
feel like
just
we're a
more
little
fragmented,
disconnected.
probably.
I mean, you
yeah.
guys have the best window to this because you guys have Gen Z kids, right? So, like, what are they doing and how do they handle it?
They've not. We have a 17-year-old who wishes she could get a driver's license, but have no way to get one.
Yeah.
So, you know,
One
So
day.
they're not in the
can't-
car culture
she
at
can't
all.
learn. It is not a good idea to have her learn on a long wheelbase Sprinter.
Well, you
In
can go to
Central
the
America.
Atacama Desert and it'll be nice and wide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She can drive on.
Yeah.
She can drive on the salt flats of Bolivia.
Yeah. That's in what, a couple months?
Oh, I don't know. No,
maybe
a couple
6
months we'll
months.
be down there, but maybe a few months from then we'll be hopefully far down enough to see some like wide open landscapes again. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, here's a question towards you guys because I really want to know. How are you guys dealing with the Panama stuff?
there's a couple of different things that are happening. Panama is the first thing that we're looking at, but the Panama stuff doesn't seem to be as bad as it was a couple months
The
ago.
protests are over, so
Yeah.
it's easy.
But the droughts now, too, right?
That's all right.
Yeah,
But with Panama, I don't think we go through the canals, and
Yeah.
there's no more protests.
the canal problem is one that hopefully won't affect us very much. There's delays, so we just paid our deposit for our transport ship, our Ro-Ro ship, and they did say that expect delays, which I assume that's what they always say.
Yeah, but it's only a one day.
It's just a shame that there's no ferry, because you can literally, if there was a ferry, get on a ferry and be there like in
Next day.
2 hours.
Why isn't this a thing?
Well, I think
I think there's a handful of reasons. Like then there's some
Drugs.
political reasons that they're trying to make it difficult,
Yeah.
right?
Smuggling and
Yeah.
enforcing that.
They're seeing how easy it is when you have an easy way to get truckloads of stuff across from one country to another, and they don't really want that to be the case. And I think that's one reason.
Right.
The second reason, I think that there's just maybe not as much. There's not as much demand as we think there is,
Yeah.
right? Because we're in this world, so we see all these people that are always trying to book shipping, trying to figure it out. But in reality, how many people is that? You know, probably can't
Barely
even fill
anything.
one boat, right? Like,
We're like
Yeah.
up 1% of the whole boat is people overlanding, if that.
yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, they did have a ferry that went from El Salvador to Costa Rica for a little while this past year. And you think, why would they do that? It's kind of weird because there's a road, perfect road to drive right through. But to bypass Honduras and Nicaragua saves the shipping companies a lot of time, because if you try to get to the border of either of these countries, like you're literally going on the other side of the road, passing hundreds of trucks that are waiting to get in and out.
Right.
I feel bad for these people. They're just parked there for
Truckers
days,
for
it seems
miles,
like.
yeah.
Wow.
So even that ferry, I think they stopped because there wasn't enough demand. People they weren't willing to pay the extra price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So we think it'll be fine. You know, the thing that we're keeping an eye on now is actually Ecuador. We want to make sure when
Okay.
we get down to Colombia, Ecuador, that things kind of ease up there.
Yeah.
And then we'll, make our way south.
Can you go around Ecuador?
Not really. Not really. I mean, if you could, it's not necessarily better for other
Right.
reasons.
Right.
So, we're probably at this current pace, we're looking at being back in the US about a year from now. So,
Okay.
yeah, because Ava's going to
Really exciting.
graduate and
Yeah.
she wants to actually like be a part of the ceremony. They're going to have an actual like in-person ceremony for her school.
Well, that's great.
Cool.
There's
Yeah.
also prom too, so maybe she'll do that.
Maybe we should do prom, right? We'll see.
Nice.
We have to
Oh, that's so
We'll have to-
exciting.
we'll have to see how this prom thing works out. What kind of characters are involved?
Right.
So
That's special though.
okay, so what about you say you dropped out of college,
I
like
did.
Mark Zuckerberg style, but where were you going to school?
I went to school. I went 2 years in San Jose when I right after I graduated high school,
Okay.
and then I moved to Southern California, and then I did another 2 years. So I did community college down in San Jose, and then I moved down to Southern California, and I went to another 2 years in community college in Southern California in Orange County.
Cool.
So
Dienza College?
I went to Dienza, yeah, for 2
You did?
years. Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah.
Were you studying creative arts? How did you get into the creative field?
I think I've always been a creative person. I've always drew and stuff like that as a kid, like your kids. Drew as a very young age, and then never stopped drawing. And from there, I kind of just fostered it. And when I took community college, I was not at all interested in doing math, science, history, writing, any of that stuff. I took
Such a
see, I'm
disappointment to
trying to
your Asian parents.
I took 6 art history classes
Okay.
in those 4 years of
Yeah.
school.
And you liked
And,
it. And you enjoyed
And
that.
I loved it. That's the only class in college that I got an A+ every single time.
Okay. So you knew you'd be happy doing this for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
creative.
yeah. So I always knew, and then it's always been a thing. So yeah.
What about you, Karissa? Where did you go to school? I know you went to art school somewhere, right?
I did, yeah. I went to
San
community
Francisco?
college.
Right?
I did. I went to school in San Francisco. I started with community college in Victoria, Texas for probably like 2 years. I took business, accounting, photography. My mom was like, make sure you actually want to do photography because this is like, art school is expensive. Like, make sure you like
Yeah.
it. I was fully submersed into photography. There was like no way I was not doing it. Like, I was into strobes, lighting. Like, I hadn't even been to art school yet. I was like very self-taught. And I took film classes down there. There wasn't There was a semi-advanced digital class, but then like once I knew it's really what I wanted to do, I was like starting to look at art schools, and my parents were like, "Go to Savannah, like we can come visit you so easily." I went and looked at SCAD, and then I went to Academy of Art in San Francisco and completely fell in love. Like, oh my
really?
God, the talent
Would you
there
have
was
been?
unreal.
Would you have been in school with Mac and Owen? Had you gone to SCAD?
I think so. I think our years would have been similar. I definitely wasn't an athlete or on a swim team, so I don't know if we would have gone past.
They wouldn't ignore you.
But
Yeah.
no.
We don't talk to these normies.
But I love San Francisco. When I went to that college and I saw like the art that kids were creating, I was like, there's something going on with like what's being taught here. I could tell a huge difference in many of the colleges that I went to look at for photography. And I was really focused on commercial photography. I knew that's what I wanted to pursue, automotive commercial. And so I went for it. I fell in love with San Francisco. I lived in Pacifica, which is south of San Francisco. So it was like, I still had that really nice small town vibe, which I could tell I needed. If I had lived in the city, I don't think I would have lasted coming from small town Texas. But
yeah, Pacifica, like surprisingly, it feels very small to be right next to one of the biggest cities in the country.
Totally. Small surf town, such a vibe. I'd go to Taco Bell on the beach all the time.
Best Taco Bell in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the best.
Yeah, we went to that.
Was that always there? Like, what years were you there?
Oh gosh, I think I was there 2010 onward. So yeah,
Okay.
Taco Bell was there in 2010. It was dead as heck.
Yeah.
No one was there. It was great. There was never a line. Now you go in the parking
Now
lot.
you
It's full and
go,
you're like,
people are
"I'm
getting
not
married.
going." Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it though. I fell in love with nature really deeply once I moved out west. I mean, I spent a lot of time outdoors in Texas. Like we went camping growing up and had four-wheelers, went mudding, like all of that.
Camping in
but
Texas is RVs though, and that's like
not always. I did tent camping too. We'd go to like Guadalupe River,
yeah.
you'd pitch a tent. My parents did have a trailer, so that was nice. We grew up doing like bunk beds and that, but out west is just so different.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle out here
Yeah.
too, like very focused on like health and wellness and being outside, and also the weather's like perfect, so there's just like really no excuse to not be outside. But back to art school, I loved it. It was so much fun. I miss the challenges that teachers would give you to just like really think outside the box and push you conceptually. Really miss that a lot. It was a blast.
Were you already thinking that you want to go west before San Francisco? Like, is that kind of what pushed you this direction versus
I feel like
going
probably
east or staying Midwest?
I always had a dream of like California, Hawaii. I grew like in middle school, I grew to really like surfing in Texas, and so like surf magazines were really big for me. Like I'd make my collages and it'd be like
Galveston Bay
surfing,
catching those
beaches.
container ship waves. Did you ever do that?
No.
Oh man.
No. In
You
Texas?
should look that up. You should look that up. There's I want to say it was in a
Support?
couple of movies. In Galveston Bay, there are some big container ships that come by, and then certain parts of the bay, the bottom contours are just right that you can catch the waves that the container ships make for like
That's
a
wild.
long ways.
Wild. That's crazy. No, I had no idea about that. We go to Port A and it was like nice baby waves by the pier, and it was chill. You know, in Texas, like growing up, I didn't know how perfect it would be out west. So I was like, this is what I have. I'm very hot and clammy and sweaty, but I'm having a blast. The water's warm. It's great.
Mexico's right there.
Yeah.
So San Francisco, and when you guys were working for this guy in Detroit, were you living somewhere else after? This is, I assume, after you graduated.
Yeah. I'd graduated, had no plan after graduation, went on this job, and I was still living in San Francisco. Linhbergh was actually in San Diego for some of that too. And then, I mean, whenever I graduated, it was like, do I go back to Texas? Do I stay in San Francisco? I knew with automotive, I had to be in LA or Detroit. Like, those were kind of like your two hubs if you wanted to succeed, I guess, as a commercial photographer. And, Linhbergh helped me get a job in LA, so I had like a regular day job. I moved to LA and worked at a what is it?
So aftermarket car parts company.
Yeah. So I'd like help import parts for cars from Japan and like help people kit out their like, just sick slammed builds, stuff that I was already into, which was really cool. And I think I worked.
I picture you like working at a counter as these these like rice burner guys come up.
No, actually, it was all on like it was very like digital based. So like phone calls, emails, forums. Like I found a lot of my customers through forums. So I was really heavy on like kind of every forum for every like demographic of cars, like Honda forums, Skyline, Nissan stuff, Mazda. Like you'd be kind of like spread out all over the forums and just like chatting with people like all day long. That was your like 9 to 5. And then I got so busy shooting and assisting my friend, like shooting cars and assisting my friend, that finally my boss was like, hey, like it might be time for you to focus on like one, like are you gonna do cars or are you gonna do cells? And I was just like, I think I'm just gonna do cars. My friend hired me to edit for him, and he had like a ton of stuff that needed to be edited, and it was like 3 months pay. So I was like 3 months pay of like where I was working. And so I was like, you know what?
I mean, that wasn't a hard
Good
choice,
for
right?
3 months.
Do you want to sell parts for the rest of your life? Or do you want to do something that you went to school for and love?
Totally. Well, it was also the scare, right? LA is huge. There's so much competition here to even succeed as a freelance automotive photographer. So I was just like, man, 3 months I can get by, see how much I'm shooting, see how well I do. And if not, I can like find another job if I need to. And I didn't need to. Yeah, I went freelance.
Wow, so you've been freelancing ever since. You've not gotten like a W-2 ever since.
No. Yeah, it's been 10 years. 2014 is when I went freelance. So 2024. Yeah, it's been 10 years. It's been great. Cool.
And so after this show at Detroit, like, did you guys kind of connect right away and just... Were you friends at first, or how did it?
Yeah, we were friends.
Yeah, we were friends at first.
Probably like half a year to year we were friends, and then we started dating. Once Linhbergh moved back to LA, and we were like back in kind of like each other's circle of friends, and like just hanging out, doing car culture things, which we both loved. We hit it off. I mean, we hit it off in Detroit. You were adorable and immature, and for some reason, I was attracted to
he was
your rowdiness.
You mean he's changed?
He was so immature. He was just, farting and making me laugh the whole time in Detroit. You made me laugh. I was like, this guy. And then you're like, oh, I'm going here. And I was like, wow, he travels a lot. This is so cool.
Well, that's what us goofy Asian guys, that's the only thing we have.
Yeah.
We don't have any other way to impress women.
No. When we met, I was like, man, Karissa is far too out of my league. Like, I just, like, there's nothing I could do to ever impress her. So I'm just going to, like, be myself and just, like, I'm a farty guy to begin with, so I'm just going to fart on set. And the funny thing was, we were shooting at the abandoned Detroit Opera House. And so the farts were, like, echoey and really cool.
Man.
Was that when, like a lot of Detroit was, like, being abandoned? It was post-2008, right?
Mm-hmm. It was a
that
lot
was when
of
all these whole neighborhoods just kind of got deserted.
Yeah. So, we shot at the Opera House, the old Opera House, and it was amazing. Detroit was
cool. I really
cool.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was a fun vibe.
But
so how did you guys go from there to sort of, I mean, is it just a matter of like merging the joy that you had as a kid camping and then also your love for cars into like, let's get into car camping, like, how do we kit out cool cars that can go camping? Is this how that kind of evolved into getting into overlanding and trucks and off-road vehicles? Or is there some other story that's
It definitely
waiting to be
didn't start with
discovered?
modding off-road. Like off-road camping and overlanding, well, I guess overlanding's always been, a thing, but it wasn't at its peak. It wasn't on the streets of LA where everybody's like, oh, I got
Yeah.
my Tacoma and all this stuff. Like
Right.
that wasn't it at the time. We just had like a daily driver, like a Lexus and IS350 sedan, and we loved camping and going out in nature.
Our daily day-to-day lives were very, very like busy, like shoot.
Yeah,
And
always on production.
Always on production.
Always
like, oh
going.
yeah. Either like she's assisting me, I'm assisting her, or like we're both out shooting our own things. Like it was just constant, right? And so it got to the point where we're like, okay, we need to do something about our work-life balance because it sucks.
Yeah.
And so we eventually just took our car and went out camping, and they're like, oh, we love this because it's like it's a disconnect. Actually, cell phone service was really hard to get to the minute you leave the city back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
That was great. So like we loved it, and we kept going like every weekend. We would just keep going out.
Yeah.
And it turned into like a weekend, and it turned into an extended weekend, and then turned into a week, and then turned into 2 weeks, and then eventually it turned into a month, right? But like in that time, we were like, okay, we should get something that is a little bit more capable, and
We were being
You're
limited.
pushing
Like,
that
our car can only
Lexus
go
to its
so far.
limits at this point.
Yeah, we definitely were not doing the
was your
month
point
and
and shoot.
Lexus. That's
Yeah,
fault.
right. You maxed out
Yeah.
on this point and shoot again.
maxed out on the point and shoot car.
Yeah, and we really wanted a
Good
Land
callback,
Cruiser,
Marlene.
Thank you.
honestly. We really wanted a Land Cruiser, and then we were like, you looked into Monteros because they were like super affordable, and we were just like, we need a bigger car for all of our production gear anyway. Like, this is great. It's not just for going out and camping. Like, we're using this for work too, so it made it feel like like a good purchase and usable purchase
Yeah.
for more than
Yeah.
just outdoor stuff. And then from
So
there,
at the beginning, it was
this
like,
snowball.
when you got the Montero, was it still just tent camping? Like Rubbermaid totes with tents and,
Yep.
you know,
Yes.
like Walmart gear
Yep.
in the back?
all of it, yeah.
But it took the Montero for us to discover public land for the first time,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
because we wouldn't attempt to even off-road in our other car, right? So that gave us the confidence to do public land, and gave us the confidence to get further and further out, and made us fall more deeply in love with that kind of travel.
So this is like 10 years ago or so?
We're calling like 8,
Maybe
9,
8,
yeah,
yeah, maybe
close
8,
to
9
10
years ago?
Yeah. But yeah, we've been loving it ever since. And then 3 years ago, we were like, 4 years ago, we were like, okay, we need something that has interior space. What are our options? And we
Yeah, because the Montero, you guys ended up getting a rooftop tent, right, for the Montero?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have this weird concept that I'm trying to spread about rigs. And the Montero is what I consider a 90-10 rig, right? And it's 90% living outside, 10% living inside,
Okay.
right?
Well, that means you're only
and-
sleeping 2.5 hours a day.
Yeah, so that sounds like a high percentage. But yeah.
Maybe,
Okay,
whatever.
your
right?
waking hours. Would you say your
Yeah,
waking
waking
Yeah, okay.
hours, right? And so there's a lot of times where we would be outside, or it'd be too cold, too rainy, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or too hot, or whatever, doesn't matter. And it got to the point where we were just over it. Like we were
Yeah.
traveling on the road so often. Like, what could we do to have interior space? Because we need it. Because we love doing this so much. And we both agreed that after looking online and then seeing all the world travelers and their troopies, we're like, that's it. That's what we need. And so
Who had a troopy that really got you? Like, was there a specific troopy, or you're just looking at like Australians and people from?
I just saw Australians and Germans, basically. I don't think there was one single troopy at the time that we were really into. It was just the idea of the troopy. That one, it was a pop top that could go into a container, no problem. Mm-hmm. And because we still have aspirations to travel overseas, and then it was small footprint still, and it was a Land Cruiser, which we've always wanted, and so it's kind of like everything bunched up into one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
small enough
we
to keep
saw-
at the house, so you don't have to store it somewhere else.
definitely. Oh my gosh, yeah, we have a backyard full of vehicles.
As you would, as you should.
Yeah.
But I think we saw our first one at Northwest Overland, right?
Yes.
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 Overland Rally.
It was one of the
Okay.
7P guys.
Yeah.
Troopies.
Yeah, at least first one in person, so we like sat in it. We were like, oh yeah, we need this. And then like Fit Garage let us test drive his, and that was a blast too. And we were like, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
How did you guys end up at Northwest Overland Rally? How did you hear about it, and what? I mean, that's a long ways to go from LA.
I'm trying to think. someone told us about it. I think we met Richard and Ashley maybe a year prior.
Okay.
On the road.
Okay. Yeah.
And they told us about it, and they're like, you should come
Yeah.
up and try it out. And at the time, I think we were in Wyoming,
Yeah.
Montana, and then we were like, oh, we could just make it if we
Oh,
wanted
you were
to
on a
go.
trip already.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
on a shoot for Dodge in Wyoming, and we were like, we could just like make this whole trip. Like instead of them flying us out to the Tetons, let's drive to the Tetons and then go up from there and across. So like it really
Right.
worked out. It became like
Pocket
work
the
trip.
the travel stipend for
Yeah.
gas and food.
Yep, no, that's what we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went to Northwest Overland Rally and saw our first trooper. Like, that's it. That's what we need.
Yeah.
We're sold. What can we do?
Perfect. Well, we had some nights where it was just like, or not even nights, days where it would just like rain on end, and we're just in the rooftop tent. We're
Yeah,
like,
that's
so
miserable. Right.
Yeah.
So
Like, well, make a
90-10, you would say the rooftop tent. And the troopy that brought you, how did that like level out the ratio?
I would say after 3 years of having a troopy,
Or
I
Montero.
would, or no, the troopy. I would say the troopy is a 60-40.
60-40. Okay.
It's not a
Is that
50-50.
Is that a good ratio for you, or would you like even more indoor space?
So having indoor space, there's a problem with having indoor space. The problem is that you want to be indoors,
Yeah.
nice for us.
right?
I don't
So
think every person
not
is that, but
everybody's
yeah.
like that, but us
Yeah.
specifically, we're like,
No, the more
"Oh my
comfortable
gosh."
you are, the less
It's
motivation
so
for you to
comfortable.
go out. Sure.
Yeah, we're like
Right,
that.
right. There'd be times where, I mean, we've been in Baja on the beach, beautiful water, but the wind is just ever so slightly too windy, right? And you want to read your book. So what
Yeah.
else could you do? It's like, I'm going to go inside
On my couch.
on my couch.
And just look out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
is
don't know
pretty
if
good.
it's like,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
there's nothing wrong with it, but like
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I was outside a little more. And that's just us going, oh, we need to be outside more. But we're like, yeah.
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 So you're happy
I'm not
with the
saying I'm
60-40.
complaining about it. Yeah, I'd say 60-40.
I think from there it's self-awareness and forcing yourself outside.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we-
or you know, you have 3 kids and a couple cats, and it's just not enough
So-
space anymore because they seem to grow.
What is
apparently.
the sprinter then? Is that for you guys? What is the sprinter?
I mean, for
We can
us,
do everything inside.
we can do everything inside, but I would say for us, has everything to do with the conditions outside.
Yeah.
If the conditions are really nice out, it could be a 90-10 scenario,
Yeah.
right? But if
Totally.
the conditions are
Yeah.
really bad, it's 10-90, right? Because
Right.
we don't have to be outside if we don't want to be.
Right.
But,
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that ratio, you know, it's pushed us outside more as the kids have gotten bigger.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
You know, you start to accumulate more stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I agree. Like 60-40, closer to 50-50 is a good ratio.
Yes. Yes.
I think it's great to know that you can be comfortable inside, especially because it's like, you know, we're not on the road to just vacation for a month and just hike
Yeah.
every day and have fun. Like, we all are just working on our computers too. So to have that space to sit down and really grind instead of being
Yeah.
forced to just like be on a camp chair with your laptop, like it's
Yeah,
nice to just
and-
like have the space.
And I will say, like, you know, digital nomads, whatever, love to share that photo of them, like feet in the sand in a lounge chair at the beach on their computer working. But that is a horrible way to work. That is not.
Stand in your keyboard.
That is not
a
fun. Like
terrible
you
way
can't
to
really see the screen too well. There's always a glare, and like sand's getting into your keyboard, like making the keys stick, and you turning it around, shake
Yeah.
it down, and then your battery's
yeah.
dying. So there's all kinds of reasons why, like working
Yeah.
inside is much better. And if you have that big open window to have the view, you know that
Yep.
is ideally, you know how we
Totally.
like to do it. But yeah,
Yeah.
it does make for a great photo, right? It's like
Agree-
people
yeah.
waking up with the back door of their van open. It's like, who?
Uh-huh.
You just left it open all night? Like, who's waking up like that?
Hell no, mosquitoes, man. I'm Asian. They
mosquitoes?
like me.
Yeah, totally. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, do you think you guys have, like, in your current work-life balance or home travel balance, like, what is your current, like, ideal length of a trip that you take? Like, when do you go someplace and you feel like, oh, you know, I've been out too long. I want to go back and check on things, like, you know, see people nearby, stuff like that. Do you have that, or is that?
I think we
varies?
both have different time frames of that.
Okay, well let's hear both.
I don't know, man. I feel like it depends where we are, what's going on in
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. If we're on the road with our dogs, I could stay out indefinitely.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's usually
Right.
you want to come back and check on them if they're not with
Right.
you.
But if we're flying to places, then I could do up to 3 months probably.
I can do a month. I miss my babies. I need the Stella cuddles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
But you don't need there's nothing at the house that would keep you or that'll make you
other
come
than my
back.
plants. Like, I gotta make sure my plants don't die.
But we have house sitters come by if that's
Yeah.
the case, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not that big of an
On
issue.
the truck, easily 3 months, but traveling internationally and not having our dogs with us, I would say mine is maybe like a month to a month and a half.
Yeah.
How do you think your productivity level changes when you're at home versus on a trip in the truck?
Well, I'm not very productive on the road personally. I haven't found the, I mean, really when I'm out there, I'm just gonna enjoy. Because I'm like, oh, I'll get back to home and then I'll get to grinding again. I still have a hard time with it, especially in the troopy. It's pretty small between two people. Like, if we're both on our laptops working in there, it's not very comfortable. Like,
And Linhberg's always
wants to go
farting.
outside.
Small space.
Yeah, I'm like hotboxed in there trying to get out, climbing over him to breathe again.
Those big windows,
yeah,
smash your face
We're
against it.
definitely we're like climbing over each other if we want to like adjust or move. It'll be like, hey,
Yeah.
can you hand me this? And you're like moving things. And I would say maybe if we had like a work table and we're facing each
Yeah.
other, we could both like access the alley easier. It'd be a little different. We'd be probably more comfortable. But you work great on the road. But
I
you
love
work-
working on the road.
You work great at home too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love working on the road. I'd say I'm even more focused on the road than at home because
Less
at home I'm like
distractions.
less distractions, right? Like at home I can like, oh, I can watch this YouTube video while I'm working.
Yeah.
But then
Or game for hours.
working for
Or
hours,
game,
right?
right. Well, we didn't talk about what I thought was the most interesting part of your life, which was Luca's dream to be able to eat fish and play video games every day. Right?
He still talks about it. He just
still
talked about
talks
it
about it.
yesterday. Remember what Linhbergh said? That's the dream.
That's the dream. Eat fish and play video games
Catch
every
fish
day.
on your own.
Oh my god.
I mean, we don't have to go into a lot of detail, but now we brought it up. I think we need to fill the people in on what we mean by that. That was like during the early days of you being in LA, right?
Oh, right. It was the early days of me being in LA. I moved to LA. I got a job. The job underpaid a lot. I was getting paid minimum wage for graphic design illustration work, basically. And every single month I got paid, I had paid rent and then I would be negative. Like, that's just how the math was. There was no extra money for phone bills or anything, or food or anything
paycheck
else.
to paycheck. You're scraping by.
Paycheck, literally, like, paycheck goes in, negative. Paycheck goes in, negative, like, every single time. And because of that, I did everything in my power to save as much money as I could. And one of those things was I went to Big Five, which is a big sporting goods store. I got a year-long fishing license, and I went out to Huntington Beach Pier. I bought this, like, $5 rod from Craigslist at the time, and then I fished. And I would catch about, I'd say 5 really small rainbow trouts. They're like this big. And then that would last me about a week of food. And the only thing I would actually buy would be a bag of rice. And a bag of rice for me, as a single person at the time, would cost me about $20, and that lasted to be about 6 months.
We have to know that you're buying rice from like an Asian store. So we're not talking about these like Ralph's or Vaughn's bags of rice. We're talking like Asian store bags of rice, right?
Right. And one is cheaper, and yeah, so that's what, and I grew up with that, right? So I got the Asian store bag of rice, and so my only actual cost of food was the rice, because I would just eat fish any way I can. Yeah. So.
And instead of going out with your friends,
instead of going out with my
costs
friends,
money.
yeah. So instead of going
money that you didn't have.
Two things. So and then yeah, I didn't go out. I was 21 at the time, going to 22. So for this, I'd say year and a half, the thing that I did to save money is I played World of Warcraft, and that was my only cost was $15.
It was entertainment and socialization.
Entertainment and socialization, and so rice was my only thing, as like paid thing that I had to pay. So I was $15 a month, and then $20 for rice every single 6 months, right?
Your game was $15 a month.
Yeah,
that sounds like high for back then.
I mean, yeah, right, but like
it's high. I mean, I think that sounds right too, but that's why I think I never got into stuff like that, because it's a lot of money. I have a hard time paying $15 for subscriptions
cheaper
now.
than going out and buying a few beers with your friends.
That's like
right,
2
right.
beers.
So,
right.
Yeah, so like in that time, like I had some friends and I witnessed them get married in World of Warcraft, so it was a huge thing, right? So so I saved a ton of money actually that way. And within the year and a half, I eventually was able to breathe and surface and like breathe air, and it got me out of it eventually.
So how many different ways did you come up with cooking rainbow trout? Like, I want to know.
Okay, so pan fried is the easiest.
This is like one of those Forrest Gump, Bubba Gump scenes.
Right. It is. Right. So I did everything. So I did let's say a pan fried with oil, salt, pepper. And then I got fancy, and then I bought those mama packets. Are you familiar with those? It's like a sweet and sour instant thingy. And so I did sweet and sour soup with the trout. I made a quote unquote Vietnamese sweet and sour with pineapple with the trout. I barbecued trout, so I put literally Sweet Baby Ray's on trout. You know, like anything you can do just to change it up.
Was this like the beginning of your love for cooking? Was this like the moment where you got really
not the
creative?
moment. No,
I mean,
I would say
when you grow up as an Asian kid in an Asian family, like food is a big part. And that was probably, people would say that food is a big part with every child, but I feel like, you and I have a similar thing growing up, right, with a lot of cooking and different types of cooking than what people in the U.S. are used to.
Mm-hmm. I would say cooking for survival doesn't grow you a love for cooking. It's whenever you exit that survival part and you go cooking for excess or like cooking to please somebody. That's when a love for cooking actually grows. And so
cooking for other people.
Other people, right? So I didn't love cooking until I met Karissa. So the weird thing is I've been cooking all my life, right? And it wasn't until I met Karissa that I fell in love with cooking. And that awakening happened. So
well, you're really inspired by your uncle, though.
Did you what's your food experience like, Karissa? I mean, I assume barbecue, being from their part of Texas.
Yeah, barbecue for sure. I'm trying to think what my upbringing with food was.
I mean, your mom cooked simple things.
Yeah, she cooked for us for sure a lot growing up. We ate out a lot too, at least during like the work day, and then we'd go home and she would like cook spaghetti, or she was pescatarian, so like a lot of tuna stuff. She'd cook sausage
like Linhbergh during that year.
Have you ever heard of a tuna patty?
A tuna patty for like a sandwich?
No, it's kind of like a crab patty, so it's similar to that, and it's like fried,
like a crab
and
cake.
then you like have it with ketchup. And as a kid, I mean, gosh, I love ketchup, so anything with ketchup was delicious.
Yeah. I used to make when I was in elementary school. I would come home and I would make like a super janky poor man's fried rice, which is not fried rice at all. It was just a bowl of rice with a fried egg on top and then ketchup on top of that. And then you just mix it all up with a pair of chopsticks.
Not even fried rice.
Not even
you
fried
would do
rice,
that too,
right?
though.
But it's
would
like a
do that too.
simulated.
Ketchup.
It was a simulated fried rice, right? For
Right.
for what a kid can do.
Yeah. I
I
did that
love
too, by
that.
the way.
I love that,
Yeah.
and I made it for the kids the other day, and Mila's like, "Can we make that again?" Yeah, ketchup. You know, I mean, ketchup is actually in a lot of like Asian American cuisine. You know, when Asians came to America, it's like, "Oh yeah, what's this thing?" Like, it was a substitute for a lot of different things that you couldn't find at the time. You can find everything now.
Yeah. You guys were in Japan for a little bit, right?
No,
No, we've never been.
No, we never been.
No?
Well, I think I've been, but I was too young to remember.
Okay. There's this really, really popular Japanese dish. It's Japanese, but it came from the West. It's inspired by the West, but it's basically
Yeah.
Japanese people's interpretation of Western food. And it's called Neapolitan spaghetti.
I mean, even like
And,
katsu is technically like brought in after the war.
Right, right. But Neapolitan spaghetti, it's not made with marinara sauce, it's made with ketchup.
Oh wow.
I mean, that is for sure what they use, like in a
Yeah.
in a military like barrack to make spaghetti.
It's delicious. Well, we go to these Japanese cafes all the time and we have it, and it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they just use regular ketchup, or is this special Japanese ketchup?
It depends on the place. The most traditional, quote unquote, traditional recipe is Heinz ketchup.
Okay.
But then you could also put in, I think, tonkatsu sauce mixed in if you want to. But for traditionally, it's just ketchup.
Yeah, ketchup. You know,
Yeah, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere in Japan.
everywhere.
Like,
Yeah. Say what you will
everywhere.
about
Yeah.
ketchup. I mean, I guess some people don't like it on hot dogs, but I used to put ketchup on pizza when I was a kid. I mean, I don't do it now.
People do
But
it
I-
in Croatia.
I
There's
thought it
always
was
a ketchup
I thought it
tape.
was amazing.
There's always ketchup at Croatian pizza.
I
place.
have I have cousins that grew up here in the States. We're all around the same age. And then whenever their mom made fried rice, they did the opposite, right? So mom made fried rice, like real fried rice with the soy sauce and all that stuff. And they would top it with ranch. And I thought that
Yeah.
was really weird. But it's kind of like the Western going into the Asian food. So
Definitely
Interesting,
got
yeah,
it. Grew up
ranch.
on ranch.
I do love some ranch.
Yeah.
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 So how was it, Karissa, when Linhbergh started cooking for you? Have you been introduced to this type of cuisine, like maybe like Asian fusion-ish kind of thing when you were
Yeah,
growing
I
up?
loved Asian food growing up. We had a Thai restaurant in town, and I would go to it very regularly. Yeah, he definitely spoiled me with his cooking. It started with me cooking because I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're eating Korean." Like we just started like really seeing each other in Los Angeles, and we were eating
Yeah.
out a lot, like
It's
Korean
the best
barbecue
place
twice
to
a
eat
week.
everything.
Yeah, yeah. He would just take me so many places, and it really helped me fall in love with LA because I actually really didn't like living here for a long time.
I mean, it was the same thing for me.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, the city's
Yeah.
pretty ugly. Like compared to San Francisco Bay Area, oh my gosh, like why would I move down? Really?
It's just a concrete jungle here, but
Yeah,
concrete jungle that
yeah.
eats well.
But now, I mean, gosh,
Yeah.
food made me fall in love with it. The weather being perfection made me fall in love with it. But of course, Linhbergh being here is what made me stay.
So the story is, we both started gaining weight.
Yeah.
When we started seeing each other because we were eating out so much, and then so she took upon herself to like, I'm gonna start cooking.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna
we could-
start like eating well and like
Eating
cooking
well and
less
cooking.
carbs and
I
like
see.
less
She-
sugar and salt. And then Linhbergh was like, "I'm so over this. Like, let me just like take your recipes and make them a little better." And then he'd be like
Right.
gunking like salt and sugar in them.
He's like now
like
he's
a
on his
boy,
MSG
but-
campaign.
Yeah. But gosh, once we stopped doing, I guess like oh, this is like the healthy food that we're eating. You went fishing and you caught tuna, and then we were doing like ceviche and we were doing
Sashimis.
yeah
with that.
sashimis,
Yeah,
and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, this is great.
yeah.
And then I was like, you take over. I'm not like you got this.
Yeah.
So you
So I
don't
kind of stopped cooking.
you don't enjoy cooking the way that he does. You do it to kind of make the things that you want to eat and to eat a healthy
Yeah.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
But whereas
definitely.
Linhbergh, like this is, you've sort of, in your mind, is photography still your passion, or do you think food or cooking has become, maybe a higher priority, or are you trying to like blend the two together? Because, since we've known you, you've always been really, really interested in this whole concept of like, going out, blending all three of these together: photography, overlanding, camping, and like, making meals while you're out there. It's kind of become like what you're known for, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I would say my passion for photography has lessened a little bit, for sure, but it's still pretty high up there. I enjoy editing still as much as I did years ago.
You say you love editing, unlike a lot of people who take photos and like send it out to be edited, but you actually love the editing aspect.
I love the editing process. That's my favorite part. I love shooting, but I love editing way more. But
I mean, there's a lot of this in common with cooking, editing, and creating in general. It's like this sense of like coming up with the finished product, right? Do you think it goes back to that same sense of wanting to be a creator, wanting to be somebody who like, also you said you like cooking for somebody else. It's like, hey, look at this thing that I made from nothing.
Right. I think there's always a correlation between like you want those synapses in your brain to always be happy, right? And then as a creative, you always want some kind of feedback of like, hey, I created this, what do you think about it? And you feed off of that like positive energy that sometimes you get back. And I think food's the same way. So I would say, they're very, very similar in that sense. Whereas food and photography, or food and creative things, will always give you that feeling of just like the same, like, what is it? Feedback response. And then you're like, I want to do more. I'll do more.
And I would say food maybe even more so, right? Because photography, anything creative that's visual, only gives you one. If you're doing video, there's two senses, your visual and your audio. But the food, having that like sensory of taste involved.
And smell. Yeah.
And smell, right? All of this, it's kind of like, it's much more something you can touch and feel. And maybe it's not as easy to share like on a large scale, but I feel like what you guys are doing, and I don't know how much you can talk about, the video series that you guys have been creating, but it's kind of blending all of that together and getting that like the joy of cooking and the ability to share with people, and then finding a big audience to be able to share them more widely than you could in the past.
Right. But we could talk about the video series. So this past year like you said, we've been able to combine both of those things. Creative outlets, right? And we have partnered up with XOverland, and Mobile One, yeah. And they have say like, hey, we want to see what you could create in your own sense of cooking.
Do you guys get free oil changes forever now? Is that part of the deal?
Yeah. Yes.
We got oil.
Nice.
We got oil. And so we created. We came up with this concept of this concept of the show came up from one of our most asked questions whenever we see people is like, hey, what do you cook when you're out on the road, or what can I cook when I'm out on the road, right? And I always say I always tell people you could cook anything you cook at home on the road. You just have to tweak it a little bit, right? So that's the concept of the show. Is we take every single episode has a guest, and at that guest, we ask them to cook their favorite meal inside of a home. There are no changes, just straight home recipe, and then we would go out to go camp, and I would recreate that same dish camp. So that's kind of the gist of the story of the show. It's actually being released in April. Yeah, so episode 1 is in April on YouTube, on the Mobile One YouTube. And then every week after it gets released, there'll be a new episode. But yeah, we're really excited about that, and it's very interesting that like the crossroads have met there, right? Like we have this automotive commercial photography, and then overlanding, and then food came out of nowhere, and somehow all those crossroads met in this like one converging little spot, and we're like, wow, this is really special. Yeah.
Because I know that XOverland has commissioned a bunch of different creators to make series. Are there anybody else doing a show that's not like a like a travel series? Because I feel like yours is so unique. And how is that process of like selling them on the idea?
I think we might be the only non-travel, like fully travel-based show, right? But the
Yeah,
network,
I mean, there's a travel aspect for sure.
there's a travel aspect to
Yeah.
it, but it's not about the travel. It's more about getting to the destination and cooking what you want, kind of thing.
Yeah. Cooking in the outdoors and it
Yeah.
being delicious, trying different foods, and I mean, a lot of the meals that we have, I feel like a lot of people won't have access to trying at any restaurants near them or anything like that. So I think it's going to be really nice to just like help people try new things and add new flavors into their palate and bring that outside
Right.
and have a great
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
And then the aspect of selling this idea. I
Yeah,
don't
were
think
they
it was
on
that
board
hard.
with the idea right away, or did you have to convince?
They originally wanted us to just have like just the two of us doing a cooking show, like straight up, like nothing else, just like, hey, just roll up to camp and then cook something on camera.
Yeah.
That was the original idea that they asked for us, and I was like, I mean, that's really
Oh, so they came to
cool.
you with that idea.
Originally, yeah.
There's
Okay.
like, yeah.
We want a cooking show on the network.
Yeah, we
Okay,
need you
right,
to cook
right.
for
'Cause
us.
cooking
And it
is-
was like, oh,
Yeah, cooking always draws a big audience.
Right. And so I was like, I think we could do more than that. I think we could get more than just like a cooking show, because a cooking show, you leave with knowing a little bit more about a certain food and maybe some techniques. Right, that's what you leave with as a viewer. But I was like, I want someone leave more than that, right?
Right.
And so I came up with the idea that we have for GonCooking, which is the home idea, and then the guest, and then the recreate it at camp. So you see the difference of like the two, right? And also you get to know this person that is within the community and also loves traveling and also like loves food, and then their story and things like that. And then you, as a viewer, I think you take away more than just this is the food that I have learned. So yeah.
For sure. I feel
then
like at the end of the day, when you know, we know a little bit about it because we've been there with you guys during
Yeah.
one of these shoots. I don't know how much more I can say, but what I see in the creative process is that it almost becomes less about the food and more about the person,
Right.
right? When
Right.
definitely.
when you
Right.
take away from each of these episodes, this is what I imagine what the show might give me, but I'll find out in a month or a couple months when it comes out. Is that what you'll remember is how the food influenced the people that you were with,
Right.
rather
Right,
than
right.
the recipe itself, right?
definitely.
And I
Yeah.
think you get so
Yeah.
much more from that, and then also hopefully, with all the different episodes, and it's a wide range of episodes and different types of people that
Right.
you're doing it with.
Right.
And I feel like it's going to open up a lot of people's eyes to different cuisines, different cultures, which is
Yeah.
something that we have been trying to do and always want to do, especially
right.
raising kids on the road.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
a lot of people won't like this comment, but a lot of overland food, a lot of overland food is very monoculture, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter who you are or where you came from. When you think about travel food, as in like I'm living out of my vehicle for a little bit, food, it's very, very like boxed into like this is what we eat all the time.
And one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is for you to give some hot takes about other people's camp food, like like you
Don't
said.
name names.
If you want to name names, I'm not against it, but maybe it's
We're
best that
lucky
you didn't.
that we're very lucky that we travel with people that love eating as much as we do, and so their cooking is as varied as their palate of wanting to try new things, right? But I mean, you just literally have
like
to look
rice
at
cooker cake, for example.
yeah, right. But you literally have to just look at backpacking food, right? Like, what is backpacking food? Like, when you go buy a Mountain House or you go buy
Yeah.
another like backpacking
Yeah.
brand,
Yeah, it's
like, when
chili
you
and
see that
spaghetti
offering,
and turkey and rice.
it's always that. It doesn't deviate from it. It's kind of like the granolas too, right? You always have one or three flavors of granola. I have this like
Yeah.
pet peeve of like, why is there no savory granolas? Like, right? Like, I would eat a chickpea granola with tamarind chutney on top. right?
I was thinking granola with like sesame seeds and like maybe bonito flakes or something like that would
Right.
be really good.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But that might not sell the numbers that people want to sell, because you can't, like, no matter what, a chocolate chip will always outsell any of that stuff, right? So
Yeah, because I also think it's kind of like Asian food versus Western food. Like, you know, nobody used peanut butter as an ingredient for savory dish until after they had like Thai food,
right,
right?
right,
And it's
right.
whereas peanut butter traditionally has always been, oh, you put that on a piece of bread with jelly,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
it's amazing as an ingredient for like even like a roast chicken marinade. Like we used to make
Right,
peanut butter and soy sauce and sriracha marinade.
Oh, it sounds
know,
great.
Yum.
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
I think it's part of my upbringing. It's part of your upbringing to have a lot
Right.
of savory breakfast too, right? Because we were talking about granola, which is like predominantly a breakfast food. And in Asia, savory breakfast food is very common versus
It's
Western
way
world.
more common, right?
Danishes, croissants,
Right.
and
Sugar.
sugary stuff, cereals.
yeah.
And of course, there's bacon and eggs and hash browns and all that, which is the kind of breakfast I prefer from Western food. But
Right.
yeah, savoriness is something that I think other cultures bring in a much different way. Like
Right. I think I always whenever we introduce pho to people, like new people that have never had Vietnamese pho, and I tell them, I was like, look, I know we're having this for dinner right now because it's a very special thing, but this dish is an everyday breakfast item in
Yeah.
Vietnam. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, food's great. We love food. We love eating.
So
we
do
saw
you
your video,
see-
by the way, and we loved it.
is it so? It's going to be on the Mobile One. The series is going to launch on the Mobile One YouTube channel. Right? That's what you
So
said?
it's going to be on the XOverland Network and the Mobile One YouTube channel at the same time.
Okay.
That's really cool. We can't wait to see it. What is your we have this thing that we do at the end, which is we're calling it like
Rapid fire. But
rapid
it's not
fire
that, it's not
/
that
lightning
rapid.
round, but it's not right. It's not that rapid, and it's
You
not
can
that
make-
many. You can kind of elaborate because the kind of questions that I ask in this part of the podcast isn't. I try not to make it so so dull and things that you've heard a million times, but it's still kind of a variation on that, right? Because having been on the road for a while ourselves, we know that asking somebody to pick one favorite of something is really challenging. So for you guys, I want to hear, for the first question is, what would be like your top 3 dream overland trip? And it could, like, sky's the limit. Marlene's dad's paying, so sky's the limit.
Oh my gosh. I mean, for me, top 3 places.
Yeah, pick 3. Pick
Okay.
3. Go into as much or as little detail as you want. I know, you didn't have enough time to kind of really thought it out, but
Yeah.
Go crazy.
No, I mean, not super detailed. I would do Norway's really high on my list. I really want to be in Norway for at least a couple months and explore during like the really good season and then right into snowy season. I'm trying to think. where
and you want to
else.
be there long enough to see Northern Lights, right?
Maybe I might want to be an Airbnb by the time that comes. That's very cold.
Yeah.
It
Which
is
we have.
very cold.
We've done Airbnbs there and it was amazing. I'm trying to think what would be a second country of mine. Yours is definitely you. I mean, you say what you want.
No, you finish first. You finish first.
I feel like ours are kind of merged. So say your next one.
No. I want you to say it. No.
Oh
no.
my gosh.
Oh,
Okay. Well,
he wants more
Africa's
time to
like-
flesh out his ideas.
Okay. Africa's really high on my list. I want to see all the insane animals, and it just looks really fun to explore. And the camping sites look amazing. I want to see an elephant just drinking out of water whenever I wake up. And then I'm trying to think of a third. Gosh, there's so many places. I don't
Texas.
think I would. I don't need Overland, Texas. There's not much to go. Everyone owns the land.
Padre Island, get blown away by the wind.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I'm trying to think of a third. Can you think of something I've said before?
You kind of said everything that.
Those are like definitely
Yeah.
some top 2
Yeah.
of mine.
All right. Let's hear
I'm
two
down.
from you, Linhbergh, and then we'll go back to Karissa for her last. And then we'll come back to you. You can have the finale. We won't.
Okay.
We won't rob you of that.
I already know my finale.
He had time to think.
Okay.
So,
All right. Give us two.
so my two are also Africa and hold on. And then
Would you guys? Do you know where in Africa specifically? Because you guys both
Southern
say
Africa.
Africa, but Africa is like huge.
yeah,
Yeah.
huge. Southern Africa and then some of Central or Northern.
Okay, so you would
northern.
start probably in South Africa and then
Yeah,
make your way out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then I would love to do that one road in, is it Tajikistan or something like that? I saw
Yeah.
Grizzly and Bear
Yeah.
do it,
Tajikistan.
and I was like,
yeah.
I need to do that road in my
What is
life.
that called? We were
Something with a P.
we were supposed to do that.
Yeah. Okay. It'll come
Okay.
back to me.
No, that's like right along. It hugs the border of Afghanistan.
Yep.
A huge canyon down below.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd say that's one of them. And then, did you find your third?
Yeah, I would say South America. I thought about that. I mean, I feel like it's the place everyone goes with overlanding, but when we were there 2 years ago, we just went from, a couple rental places to the next, and we were like, man, we really need to be down here in a car
Right.
to be able to camp and everything. So I would say high on my list is like Argentina, Chile, all that whole stretch of South America, really like the whole thing. We would love to do.
I mean, I hear that you may have a container buddy if you choose to do it in the fall.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my number one dream trip would be Mars.
Wow, you would do it.
Going
You would go to
there.
Mars.
Yeah. If I had a chance to do a one way to Mars, I would.
Really?
apply.
Would you be the
Whatever
first?
application
Would you be willing to be the first?
I would
you
not
want
want to be the first. I would want to
Okay.
be one of the initial 100.
Okay. You want to make sure some people got there and landed and got, maybe. But as much as you like food, man, I don't know.
I know,
if you're gonna
right.
regret that
But it's
decision.
this weird, like, romanticized, like, greater good thought that I have about the Mars thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like you're going. It's kind of like the whole Mayflower thought, right? Like they're going
true.
to make a better life and expand empire and all this other stuff, romanticized, right? It's kind of the same thing.
And
with
you know
Mars.
that if you didn't raise your hand, there won't be that many Asians on that boat.
No,
I don't know. Yeah. You applied whenever they
I
had
did apply.
applications.
I did apply.
You like had the
Wow, you
conversation.
did.
You're like, if I get chosen, like I don't know when I would be back. And I
Yeah.
was just like, holy moly, like I gotta support you, but this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
yeah.
Who's going to cook for you if he goes on that trip?
I
You're
will
not
forget
going
to
with
cook
them.
myself.
Sounds like, Karissa. You're out.
Yeah. No, I'm good on that. That's all you.
Okay. That's very, very interesting and very unique and good answer, I would say. Although I did say overland trip, but you know what? Maybe there's a Mars rover up over there for you.
I mean, like I said, there is a Mars rover, and you have to
Yeah.
go over planets, which is land.
That's true.
Over
To
plan.
get
That's
to
true.
another.
That's another
Over a
level.
planet. That's a whole
Yeah,
new
yeah.
level. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So along the same line, second question is, and maybe this is something that you already answered, Linhbergh, just now. Somebody's buying you any rig that you want, but you have to keep it and maintain it yourself. What will it be? Overland rig. Something that you're going to travel and live in. Won't cost you
I think-
anything, but you can flip it
Yeah,
and sell it. But you have
It's
to
like
pay
a
for the maintenance
combination
yourself.
of. So right now we struggle. What we struggle in the Troopy is that the bed has to be up for us to live in it, or when we're sleeping,
Yeah.
it has to be down, and no one can be in the living space. So
You
we
have to
want
both go to bed at the same time.
right. So like the benefits of having like a camper, like a 4-wheel camper, is that you can have someone in bed and someone in the living space at the same time. So we would want something like that, but we would want the pass through, right, to the front, because we really value that. But we also want the look of the Land Cruiser, so it'd be like a Land Cruiser pass through camper thingy that isn't slow, and has
go
really
up
good solar
hills.
power. Like could go up hills, yeah. So I think like some kind of combination of that, like maybe
It also drives on Mars.
and drives on Mars, yeah. I like to me, I don't want to drive something as big as a Tundra.
Yeah.
So
So it has to be like a Hilux, maybe like a European
right, like
box. You want to pop
mid-size-
up so you can be smaller if you
Right.
want.
I would do a hard if cost is not a thing. If it could have a hard sided pop up, I would do a hard sided pop up.
I mean, Marlene's dad again is buying this for you, so you know.
All right, so carbon fiber monocoque chassis on the camper because carbon fiber is a really good R value insulator.
Yeah,
It's light.
and it's lightweight, right?
Yeah,
Right.
pass through. Yeah,
It is a conductor, so you might get electrocuted.
Oh God,
That's
I
fine.
didn't know that.
that's fine. Yeah, and it just like it looks like an old Land Cruiser, but it has a modern engine in it with an automatic transmission, something like that.
So it sounds like it doesn't already exist. You have to build it yourself.
I mean, Marlene's
Have
dad's
somebody
paying
make
for it,
it
so
for you.
it's gonna
Marlene's
exist.
dad's paying for it, yeah. But
guys
you're
have
on
engineering team
you're
to
on
help
the
you
hook
out.
for the maintenance though, and you know, so you gotta learn some skills on how to repair carbon fiber.
Super glue is
Okay,
fine.
so last one. This one, we talked about this already, and then we asked two other
Don't
people
spoil
about
it.
the same question. So we have an idea what you might say, but if the four of us were starting a business together, what would it be?
Does it have to pertain to traveling?
No, anything. Do whatever you want, whatever you think it would be a fun business for us to do together. And if it involves somebody having to be somewhere, we just have to hire somebody.
I mean,
But we'll be owners.
the natural answer is something to do with travel and video and cooking,
Yeah, I think you guys would be.
right? That's the
Really?
natural
Yeah.
answer.
I mean,
But I also had this
give me
strange
some
thought
more
of me-
details about this business. Like we're filling out this elevator pitch here for this big honcho investor that we're about to talk to. Let's see. Let's see if Marlene's dad wants to invest.
My dad's not rich.
No, I think we tapped him out. We tapped him out on that
Oh my
truck.
God.
we tapped them out at Mars, so
We tapped out. Yeah. Mars
Yeah.
was even before Mars. I think Africa was already out.
Carbon fiber
yeah,
hit the budget.
hard carbon fiber hit the budget. I don't know. Something it's along the lines of like the video to travel and the eating thing. Yeah, I don't know. That's all I got.
All right.
All right.
I think you guys have thought
gonna
about
have to-
this. So I'm curious what you guys have in mind.
Well, we don't have anything in mind. That's why we ask you guys. But we will tell you, for one reason or another, both people that we talked to before on this podcast wants to start food businesses with us. So apparently, we look like people who like eating.
Yeah, it's definitely food related. I could see it, especially with you two. It'd be a hoot.
Right?
Yeah, I'd be a hoop. Yeah.
But who's gonna come in when both of us are farting?
True.
Are you lactose?
No,
Oh.
I'm. Most Asians have either like a lactose intolerance thing or like a alcohol thing, but
I have both.
for some reason I'm not. I'm neither.
Oh wow.
So
Wow, you're a
yeah.
broken Asian.
Back
I'm
to the
broken.
business.
Maybe I'm not who I think I am.
I feel like if we all went into business together, even with the kids, like as one big family, we would just run a boba shop.
Oh,
Ooh,
that's a good
boba
one.
shop. I feel like there for sure is a trend. I think we're basically gonna own the entire food court of a mall by the end of this.
We can do Korean hot dogs in like one section.
Korean hot
boba in
dogs,
another
yeah.
section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then baked bean
I like
shop will
it.
be run by Luca.
Yeah. Man, if opening a restaurant isn't something you have to physically be there,
Yeah.
We'd be all
Yes.
over
it'd
it.
be
Totally,
all
yeah.
over it.
Yeah.
Such a
Totally. We have a
bummer.
lot of people that come up to us and they're just like, oh, it'll be so cool. Like one day when you have a brick and mortar, and we're like, that's not.
what? That
it's just
sounds
not a
awful.
goal of ours. It's awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to drop ship you some boba. How about that?
Yeah. Seriously.
Well, that's cool. Well, yeah. Those are some great answers. And, if you guys ever want to, come up with different ideas that, that you want to add to this list, we're all ears, because I feel like this spitballing can go on forever.
Yeah,
Totally.
for sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you guys for spending the last couple hours with us.
Yeah.
It
was a lot of fun.
It was so
Good
fun,
learning,
yeah.
Learning more
Thanks.
about you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's such an honor.
Yeah. It's always good to see your faces.
I know.
Yeah, good to see you guys too. Have fun on your trip,
Uh-huh.
and we'll talk to you guys when you guys come back.
Yep, for sure.
Sounds good.
So that was our episode with Linhbergh and Karissa from GonDirtin. We had an amazing time talking to them. I hope you guys were able to pick that up as we were just blabbering about everything and anything that we could think of. We miss them. We're kind of having some like major FOMO right now because all these friends of ours are at Overland Expo West. But we did say every time we go and every time we see them, as much fun as it is, it's very like
It's draining.
it's draining. It's overstimulation. It's too much socialization. It's just
We spread
it's a
ourselves
lot.
too thin.
It's a lot of work too because we're usually doing like either displaying in a
Classes,
booth or like teaching classes, different commitments that we have to be at different things.
Yeah.
And nowadays, with the kids in school and like we have cats that we have to like
It's a
figure
lot
out
of
what to do.
balancing for sure.
Yeah, but every time we go, everybody always says this is the last one. We're not doing any more of these ever. But then like the next year rolls around, everybody's going. We're like, oh, I thought we said we weren't gonna go. I guess okay, next year. We're hoping when we get back to North America in 2025, we will attend a couple more of these. They do look really fun still. As much as you're worn out at the end, they're a good time. So like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for our next episode, which will be an episode about topics. And I think it's going to be related to everything we just experienced, which is shipping from Panama to Colombia. There's a lot of changes that happen year to year, and depending on like the political dynamic, depending on the weather changes, depending on price changes, even if you've done this like a couple years before, it could be totally different now.
Now
So
you got
we're
to
gonna-
pull lithium batteries out of your car, so it's a whole process. So,
Which is why we're here 3 weeks after our van already arrived.
but our battery should be here in like an hour. So,
Yeah. So tomorrow, we're driving away from Cartagena,
yeah.
exploring the rest of Colombia.
Yes. Bye-bye, Cartagena. We've been here so long.
Feels like home now. Thanks again. Thanks as always for watching and listening to our podcast. We appreciate it. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next episode.